Hello, everyone, and welcome back to one of our fancy little live streams here. Today, we're going to be doing kind of a step back in time to some basic stuff. And I thought what we'd do is, since it's been a little while since we did a lot of the kind of basic flying things, I said, this might be a good time to go bust out the Cessna 172 and experience a little bit of that. So for those of you who'd like to join us tonight, we're going to be doing things kind of by the book, which is kind of scandalous for me, I know. But it's also a great chance for me to review my own piloting skills, as well as give you an opportunity to try yours out in the real world as well. So what we have right now is we have a Cessna 172. We're at Kilo Hotel, Foxtrot Delta right now, which is, of course, my home airport. Now, believe it or not, now when I normally take off, I'm actually on the other side of this building. So the real place where I pull my plane out is right over here, depending on which airplane I'm actually flying that day. So this little spot's always kind of amusing. And unfortunately for us, they didn't actually label these properly. This is actually Delta. And what's really fun is this is ACA. Over on this side, this is DAD. And it's just kind of like, hee, kind of a thing like that. So like I mentioned, we're going to be doing things from the book tonight. And what I've actually done is I pulled out my iPad. I'm using a tool called XMAPSy. For those of you who are not familiar with XMAPSy, it's a tool that allows you to connect your telemetry inside of Flight Sim directly to an external device. In this case, you could use Flight Plane Go, you could use iFly, which is what I used to use, and now I use ForeFlight like everybody else because it's pretty darn good. So I have to make sure I don't do any of this. So we're actually going to go stick it to the books today, and like I said, we're going to be flying out towards Nantucket, and we're going to basically be interrupting our flight a little of the way through to do a bunch of standard maneuvers that we do, and we're going to come fly back here at the regular night. We're looking probably an hour, maybe an hour 20, depending exactly how our maneuvers go and how many things I'm able to locate, and I'll be able to get us down on the ground. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to get on my handy dandy little checklist here, not my logbook. You can't see me. I have this down on my leg for just like it is in the real world. I actually have a special strap that we would do. Now, when you're getting one of these planes, one of the fun things too is I have a lot of time on 172. It's actually the plane I have the most time in. Is after you go ahead and kind of climb around the plane, usually what you do is you climb in, and the first thing you'd have to do is you'd have to stab your headphones into these little holes right here. Now, the fun thing with these little holes is if you don't stick it the right one, and they're two different sizes, you always get them wrong or backwards the first time, and then you're struggling, and of course, you go to set the parking brake, but the parking brake doesn't do anything because your plane's from the 1970s, and then of course, you come in the back seat, and what we don't see here is there's usually a lot of junk in the back seat of an airplane. You'd have a ladder, you'd have a little fuel cell, or the little kind of fuel tester, you'd have a bunch of paper towels, you'd have something to clean the windshields, you'd have a thing of oil, and there's just so much junk back here, and of course, your passengers would come back here, and what you don't see and you don't get to experience is just how much of the plane just kind of wobbles and bounces around as people are getting inside and people loading cargo and stuff like that. It's just like the most fascinating part of this. We never get to experience, but that's okay. So normally what I would do is, of course, I'd open this door. One thing you got to watch out for on a 172 that you can't see here because my door is not open. Normally we just grab that handle. Is there's actually these little tiny pins that are supposed to be holding the door from opening too fast. And if there's a really strong gust of wind, it'll take the door off or it'll bang and smack up against this and it breaks the pin. And you wouldn't imagine how many pins we've gone through as a flight club. All right, let's do it. So first things first, we're going to set the pitot 2 cover and we're going to remove it. Checked. We're going to make sure the weight and balance is confirmed. Relatively short flight today, so I'm not too worried about this. Obviously, fuel in the truck is useless, so I'm going to go set this up. We'll assume we're flying with a passenger here today. Set. Control wheel lock is going to be removed. In the real 172, you can't see this. There's this tiny little dot right here, but there's actually a little pole you can drop through this, and it'll actually lock this from being able to move here. So I'm going to assume that that's set. Ignition switch should be in the off position, which I'm pretty confident it is, because one of the fun things you don't see here as well in the real world is they're trying to shove the keys into this, and you have 9 of these keys because there's a key for this door and a key for that door and a key for that plane. It's a total nightmare. Of course, I wouldn't normally have the key just in here. It'd be like my giant jubilee of keys hanging off the side of this. Avionics master switch is off. That's just good practice in general. Master switch is going to come flipping on. That usually means both. We're going to get a little light in here. It's a little dark. I don't need anything that bright, especially, it's pretty early in the day. So, of course, if the last guy left the lights on, it's a good way to kill the battery. So it's just kind of one of those things that we have here. I don't need that. Of course, in the real world, we can't take away the actual brightness there. This looks good to me. All right, master switch on. Fuel quantity, we're going to confirm quantity agrees with what we did. In the real world, of course, what we have to do is climb up on the wing and actually stick a little stick into the fuel, and we try really hard not to drop that stick, and then we can measure exactly how much fuel we're carrying, in which case 26 gallons looks about right. Fuel quantity, extinguished. We should have no warning about that, which we don't. Avionics master switch should be on the on position, which is actually a little weird because we're running that off the battery right now, which is kind of naughty. What we're listening for is the avionics fan. I don't hear the avionics fan. That's a problem. Static pressure valve, we're not going to worry about that too much today, but that's a little handy-dandy valve we have if we're really worried about it. There it is. There's the warning. Yeah, you can see the alternate air. When we test this, by the way, in the real world, this needle should jump on us. I don't think I've ever played a flight simulator that gets this correct because the internal pressure is not going to be the same thing as external pressure. Good enough. Annunciator switch. We're just going to run that through the test position. This is real fun in the real plane because it's the only light that turns on. Test, release, good. Fuel selector valve, we're going to set it to the both position, which it is. This is actually bad practice. What you really want to do is leave it on the left valve or the right valve. And the purpose for that, of course, is if you start the engine and it shuts off on the left valve, you got bigger problems. Fuel shutoff valve, we're going to go ahead and kill that. Flaps, we're going to go, sorry about that, everyone. Flaps, we're going to go ahead and extend them. The purpose of this is to make sure the flaps go down evenly. The pitot heat, we're going to turn that on. I'm not going to do that here because we can't test it. A pitot heat is good. Master switch is going to come to the off position. Nice and easy what we've done so far. Elevator trim, of course, we're going to set that into the correct takeoff position. It's pretty darn close. And again, depends on the weight. Usually when you do takeoff position with this, if you have people in the front seat, you're not actually going to go to the arrow. You're actually going to go to the letter O. It's kind of one of those little kind of Cessna 172 hacks. All right, baggage door is secure, autopilot is set, rudder gust lock is good, tail tie down, trim tab, antennas, aileron, flap. Let's go confirm the flaps are in the correct position outside. Looks pretty good to me. What we do is we climb underneath this and go bang, 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 bang on the flap to make sure it does not take us. Main wheel tire looks good. I hate these little wheel pants. You get this little hatch to open up to actually like climb in there and do the tire pressure business. It sucks. Fuel tank valves, we go ahead and drain both sides. Let's see here. Fuel quantity be checked. Fuel filler cap, we're going to confirm those are both in, which they are. It looks good to me. Engine oil dipstick on the 172, you have this little hatch that's right here, which we're just going to open up and pop that thing in. We're going to check to make sure we have enough gallons. Engine cooling outlets, we're going to make sure there's no giant remove before flight. Propeller and spinner, obviously it's fresh. Air filters, this little guy right here. I've never seen an air filter in an airplane that looks that good. Nose wheel strut and tire, easiest way to check this is actually distance. And you can see here that the nose wheel strut is looking pretty good there. Tire we'd have to check. Static source opening, which is this little world's teeny tiniest dot. You can't see it from where we're sitting here. It looks good. Fuel quantity we checked. Fuel filler stall warning. The one way to test the stall warning on the 172, of course, is you'd have to climb onto it and you'd have to basically blow into it in the old days. In the new days, it has a little flapper. You just tap the flapper with your hand and scare everybody on the inside. Tie down's good. Landing lights good. Aileron's good. We should give everybody a wiggle, make sure it works. Looks good to me. And checklist is complete. And before starting engine. So before starting engine, 172s are easy to get started. Not that involved. This is a fun little fuel injected version. Preflight's complete. Passenger briefing. Passenger briefing, I'm going to skip today. Seatbelts and brakes are going to be tested and set, so we're going to confirm that. Yes, they are. Circuit breakers are going to be checked in. Looks good. We have no in-ops. Electrical equipment is going to be off. It's important that we shut these things off. Avionics master switch is off. Checked. Fuel selector valve is set to both, which it is. Checked. Fuel shutoff valve is on. We got that set earlier. Avionics circuit breakers check in. Complete. Starting engine with battery. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our throttle and we're going to push it in 1/4 of an inch. Sometimes people like to pump this a little bit. Not necessary on the newer 172s. Mixture is going to be idle cutoff, and that's going to be all the way to the back position. We're going to make sure the propeller area is clear. Looks good to me. All right, master switch is going to come to the on position. Click, click. We're going to make sure the flashing bacon light is on the on position as well. We're going to come down here and click the bacon. Auxiliary fuel pump switch is going to be turned to the on position depending on what version of the 172 that we actually are in possession of. Some of the 172s do not have this switch. If you take a look here and go through all these, we do have one. So we're going to make sure that's turned on. Mixture is going to be set to fuel rich. All right, auxiliary fuel pump switch is going to be off. That's our priming procedure. Auxiliary fuel is off. Ignition switch is going to be on. All right, so we'd open the window and yell, clear prop. Delightful. Love it. 1,000 RPM. Mixture is going to be advanced. Notice they asked us to advance this as we go. That's fine. One thing we want to do is we want to pop that out a little bit before takeoff. Oil pressure should be coming up. It's easy to check. Let's take a look here. Oil pressure is coming up. Nice. Navigation lights not required. It's earlier in the day. Avionics master switch is going to come on. If you're flying a real 172 and you do have an automatic pilot, you got to get this. Got to do this early because this takes a long time to boot up. Radios are going to be set. Radios are going to be set to the on position. We're also going to get a transponder because this is Hartford. Looks pretty good to me. Radios are good. Flaps are going to be retracted. And we're just going to confirm. See that beep? That's the sound of our lovely little autopilot finishing up its business there. All right, flaps are going to come up. We're just going to confirm that they do on ahead and flip up. Looks good to me. Delightful. All right, starting engine, we're going to do before takeoff, but we don't need to do that until we get ourselves in position. So first thing we want to do in the real world, of course, is double check the weather. Of course, the great thing for us at this particular place is our weather station is 126.45. Makes it easy to get. Let's go ahead and snap that over real quick. And we're just going to press this button.
Brainerd Airport information, India 1200 Zulu. Wind 255 at 10. Visibility, 9er. Sky condition, few clouds at 4,800 feet ceiling, 13,800 feet broken. Temperature, 15. Dew point, 1 tree. Altimeter, 29.902. Visual runway, 20 in use. Landing and departing runway, 20. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact. You have India.
All right, we have some India today. Brandon Tower, Red 64 is at Hangar 4, requesting taxi to the active with India. East departure. Normally that's what we'd be saying, but before that, of course, we got to call them up. So we're going to go put in the ground frequency, which is a 121.6. We're going to go pop it in here. I have an external radio that makes this a little bit easier. And the other thing we're going to do while we're at it is we're also going to pop in the 119.6, which is going to be our tower frequency that I'm going to be putting down here in the bottom. So we have our ground, we have our tower ready to go. The other thing we might do is like 127.25, depending kind of on what frequency and what direction we're going to be traveling. So that's all set to go. We're ready to go. We'll give them a quick call and sort of let us know what we're up to. We're departing to the east today.
Brainerd Ground Red 64, ready to taxi departure to the east with India.
Red 64 taxi, 2 and hold short of runway 20 via taxiway. Contact tower on 119.6 when ready.
Taxi via taxiway, 194.6, Red 64.
Hold short runway 20 using taxiway Red 64.
Now, the interesting thing is, for those of you who know this region, we would normally go over to Alpha, which is basically this guy, and we go down, and then we go ahead and take our left and jump onto the runway here. Now, the fun thing here is, like, it's like, huh? Why didn't they just get the correct taxiway? Oh, my God, they're killing me just a little bit here. Just a little bit, but that's okay. So for those of you who know the wind in this region, generally 20 is not used. We almost always use runway 2. It's not that the wind comes out of the north, it's that it comes out of the northwest. And unfortunately, that means we almost always have a crosswind here, but that's, you know, as they say, part of the fun. And it's part of the reason why we enjoy it. Now, one thing you always want to do, of course, is when you're taxiing is we want to give the brakes a quick test. And one of the things I do is I tell my passenger, or I usually fly with the co-pilot, which would be my wife, and I'd say, hey, you know, could you go ahead and crank on the brakes for me? And she'd go and step on the brakes and make sure her brakes work. Because, you know, if something happens to me, it's good to know that those brakes work too. And of course, you'd say, well, if the brakes didn't work on that side and they work on this side, do you still fly? No, you don't fly. One of the great things that I learned from doing my little flight school training back in the day is the fact you don't have to fly. You know, I don't fly commercially. You know, I don't fly passengers around. People don't pay me to fly. I do it because I enjoy flying. So it's kind of one of those things. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Come on in, Adventure Bush Flies. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be pretending we're traveling into our lovely Nantucket. We're not actually going to fly to Nantucket. We're going to interrupt our flight a little bit. And the purpose of that, of course, like I said, is to execute a bunch of, you know, traditional kind of let's get ready to fly maneuvers. Now, this is one of the fun things about Hartford here. Where do I run my plane up? The answer is right over here. So what happens here is they'll tell you to proceed via Alpha to this particular runway, and that doesn't work well for us because we have to actually cross hotel, which, by the way, is this actually a hotel or is this not hotel? I'm looking at, I've actually have the flight plan, the whole airport right on my leg right here, and it's not. Oh, give me differential braking or give me something else. Achoo! Nice. Okay. Nice. That would be me differential braking very aggressively. And you can see we have this thing. All right, before takeoff, let's go ahead and run through the motions here. So we're going to set that. Looks pretty good. Parking brake set. Seat belts, cabin doors, flight controls. Green clear. Fuel quantity is checked. Checked. It looks good to me. Mixture is going to be full rich. Ah, nice. Fuel selector valve is going to be recheck both. Confirmed. Throttle is going to be 1,800 revolutions per minute, comrades. Now, in flight sim, you have to really stomp on it to get anything out of it. In the real plane, you don't. You just go, and it comes right up on you. And that looks pretty good right there. By the way, when you do this, you always look behind you to make sure you're not kicking anybody around or anything like that. All right, throttle's good. We're going to check the magnetos first. That's not a good magneto, but it's not bad either. Wow, even magnetos. There's nothing in the real world that would ever have magnetos that good. All right, we're going to double check the vacuum gauge. Looks good. We're going to double check the engine instruments and ammeters. We're just going to make sure everything's green, 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 green. Looks good to me. Vacuum gauge is good. Ammeter good. Annunciator paddle, no warnings. Throttle, we're going to go whoop. And we're just going to see if the engine cuts out on us. Nope, does not cut out on us. 1,000 RPM. Again, we're going to give just a little boost here. Again, it's so much easier to do this in the real world. Friction lock. The friction lock, by the way, is this little ring here. You can loosen up the throttle. I've had people threaten me for not doing this enough loose. Honestly, just do it whatever. Strobe lights, we're not flying at night. I'm going to leave this out. Radios and avionics are going to be set. There's no departure frequency, so I'm not going to change that. Nav GPS, not going to use that. Autopilot should be in the off position, which it is. Manual electric trim is going to be checked. We've got that all set up. Not going to worry about it. Elevator trim is set for takeoff, which it is. Wing flaps set for takeoff is going to be 0 to 10. Brakes are going to be released. And takeoff checklist. Fantastic. Let's go. Now, in the real world, I would normally try to cut off this bonanza here. That would be a little rude. But that is perfectly fine. We've got plenty of general aviation airplanes. A bit of a backup here today. A bit of a backup. Brady Tower, Red 6-4, holding short of 2-0 on Alpha. Request takeoff, east departure.
Brainerd Tower, Red 6-4, at runway 20, ready for departure to the east.
Which you can't hear is my tap.
4 altimeter, 29er decimal 9er, 2 wind 255 at 10. Departure to the east approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 20.
Clear 20, Red 6-4. Well, for me, it'd be...
For takeoff runway 20, Red 6-4.
That's us. Let's do it. Now, the interesting thing with this takeoff is there's almost always somebody in the traffic pattern who's going to be giving us trouble. So what they would usually do is they'd actually call us back and they give us a quick little heads up saying, just so you're aware, expedite your takeoff, or don't climb, don't turn right away, or they'd say contact XYZ. They'd be very good about letting us know what we can and cannot do so we don't go flying into the pattern and cut off a bunch of people learning to fly. That was me a few years back. Now, this airport is, this runway is a lot more curved in the real world. You can't see this, but believe it or not, it's actually got a bit of an arc to it that we don't get simulated here. Not saying that's a bad thing necessarily. It's just kind of one of those things. Nice. I love it. 0, that is definitely one of those regions. We could have done VATSIM tonight, but I felt I kept it pretty simple here. I'm just taking a look at our general heading. All right, we're good to go. So we don't sit on the runway because that's bad form, but we do flip on our our landing light there to make sure that's all set. Normally, as we're going around the corner, I have everybody go through. All right, wing flap 0 to 110. Throttle full open rich. Nose wheel 70 to 80 knots. Control. All right, let's go. Now, here's what you don't get in the 172 is when you get to about 20 knots, it just shakes so hard. It's like that. And you go, oh, hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute, I know a Chris R. So when we take off, and this is when Chris R, who's just commented in the comments over there, he would say, that looks like a good spot to crash land. I like that over there. Oh, that looks pretty good. Well, if I lose our engine now, I guess we'll land over there. I guess we have enough runway to lift. Okay, it looks like we could probably go right onto that runway. And he's absolutely right in every regard. Whenever you're flying, especially when you're critically low altitudes like this, it is so incredibly critical to have a plan.
Departure.
Continue east, Red 6-4.
Brainerd Tower, Red 6-4. Continue for east departure.
And of course, Route 91 would be our go-to choice there. You can actually see that right off the right wing there, and it's a fantastic emergency spot to go. They just gave us the continue, so we're going to go ahead and maintain our nice little gentle turn here, and we're going to get ready for after takeoff here. So en route climb is going to be 70 to 80 knots. We're doing 75, that's fine. Throttle's going to be full open, mixture's going to be rich until we get to 3,000. Now, believe it or not, we're flying through a TFR right now. We can't do that. And the reason why is we're not on an IFR flight plan. But right now, over here at Renshall Airfield, there's this lovely little football game going on in actually the rain stopped. So there's a football game going on right now. And we just flew right through it. So our license is gone forever. So it was a good try. It was a good run, everybody. It was a good run. So like I was saying, we'll go ahead and make our way out this way, and we'll kind of take a nice gentle right, and we'll proceed kind of in the general direction and tuck it, and then we'll interrupt our journey here. This is always a good time to run around and check your buttons. I always like to shut the landing light off at this point. Again, it's a 172. These things are so much easier to fly than the stuff I usually fly around in. Love this. You get a beautiful view of Route 2 coming in here to Hartford. There's Route 84 cut across. And like I said, it's a nice little airport. Nice little airport. Usually gets very busy, especially if the weather's nice. All right, looks pretty good. We're going to go ahead and turn ourselves over on course, and we're going to start looking for our initial waypoint here that we're going to be using to get ourselves where we need to go. Oh boy. So we're looking for a bunch of lakes. And for those of you who know Connecticut pretty well, those would be the lakes in Ansonia as well as the lakes in Coventry. We're going to be a little bit far south for Coventry, but we should see the Ansonia Lake coming up any moment. Now, when I did this flight ages ago, when I was working on my first ticket here kind of thing, one of the things is you'd plan for a waypoint and you look out the window and it's like, hey, how you doing? Is you trying to see something? Because I don't know what you're looking at. And this would be definitely kind of a thing. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, Chris is an absolutely fantastic pilot there. More hours than should be legally allowed. Like, I think at some point you should either have to retire by age or by hours. This gentleman definitely has the hour requirement. All right, we are on course. So we should be roughly 116 to 117 degrees. One thing I did not do is set my heading bug here. I love using my feet to keep the plane stable. It's one of those things in flight training, like you did everything with your hands, and then eventually you realize how easy it was.
Airspace frequency change approved.
Frequency change, red 64.
Brainerd Tower, red 64 frequency change.
Fantastic. Now, the neat thing here is we just punched out of the Class Delta airspace, and the reason they handed us off is we're no longer in Hartford's airspace. We'll come back soon enough, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. All right, let's go get ourselves some altitude. So, as we know, we're traveling to the east, so we're going to be looking at altitudes that are going to be odd thousands. We do 3,500, we can do 4,500. For today's flight, we're going to go up to 35 and level off. That's kind of low. It's one of those things that early fill, when I was first learning to fly, like 3,500 would be perfect because the wind's perfect. But as I've gotten more experience, I like having altitude, even if it means you go a little tiny bit slower, just for safety. It's just one of those things you always want to be kind of thinking about. All right, start looking around for our waypoints here. This one is not visible in the real world. You could never see this. But yep, there's one of our lakes. We should be just to the... Oh boy. I think... Yeah, we're basically perfect here. We shouldn't touch this lake. There'll be a couple lakes coming up in the center, and that's going to be our next two waypoints for our initial flight here. We got 1,100 to go here. 1,000 to go would be interesting. I'll be doing 4,500, but like I said, nothing too crazy. And we're going to level off. One thing I learned in the early days of flying is the importance of letting the plane get to speed before you start fitzing with things. There we go. It looks pretty good there. A lot of times, especially in a 172, when you finally do level off the plane for whatever your cruise altitude is, you generally can let go of the rudder. If you're flying the Mooney, on the other hand, that usually means it's time to adjust the rudder. So it's always kind of a fun little thing like that. There we go. Let's give it a couple taps. And the real world trim is so much easier than it is in the flight sim. Although, in my opinion, if you can figure it out in the flight sim, you're pretty much untouchable in the real world as far as trim goes. All right, we're going to reduce to our cruise power here. We're looking at about 2550 RPM. Not that I'm ever going to get anything close to it, but I'll try. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. I'm going to go ahead and pop on the automatic pilot. Of course, you'd say, why would you ever use the autopilot? The reason you use the autopilot is because it's really, really good at holding the wheel for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and confirm a couple things here. Now that we're on our cruise, like I said, whenever you need to distract yourself, have something to hold the wheel for you. All right, let's go here. I'm not interested in my logbook. I'm interested in my checklist here. Ready, go. All right, we are on cruise. We're going to make sure the power is between 2100 and 2700 RPM. We are at 2550, which is desire, elevated trim, adjust, mixture lean. We are over 3,000 feet, so we can adjust our mixture here. So we'll go ahead and get that set up next. All right, mixture, here we go. We're pretty high a power, though, so if we do adjust the mixture at this particular power, that's going to make it a little bit tricky for us. So what I'm going to do is, in the real world, what you do is you pull it out to here, and you wait a second. Nothing happens, and then you start slowly edging it back while watching your EGT. What really happens in the 172 is your RPM goes up mysteriously, and then it drops, and then you just put, yep, see, that's it. And that's it. We're mixtured. Lean, that's it. That's about as accurate as you can hope to get typically in this particular plane. Of course, you have an EGT gauge, it's one thing. If you have a nice little JDM over here that does everything for you, that's another thing. That tends to be pretty helpful as far as that goes. All right, cruise is complete. Mixture is set. Airports are good. I'm going to take a look at our maps. Yeah, we're just, I think now we just need to start looking out for our waypoints. Unfortunately, that sun is literally in my eyeballs. Bad sun. Thank you. Much better. So as I mentioned, our first waypoint along our VFR journey here was this series of lakes. When you do these lakes, of course, in the real world, it's hit or miss if you're actually going to find these lakes. They can be very, very challenging. But the one thing we do have going for us, and one of these days I should do a video on VFR flying, is we have these lovely open areas where power lines cut through, and they're fantastic. Because if you can find one of these going roughly where you need to go, you just basically parallel the whole flight, and like you basically can't get lost. So that's our first waypoint coming up right in a second. Go take a look at my stopwatch real quickly here to make sure everything's all set. Yeah, we're a little late, but I expected that. Yep, so you can see we got 2 little islands here, and it's absolutely wonderful. Love it. All right, so our next waypoint will be Wyndham Airport. Wyndham Airport, it's sort of funny history for me. It's the airport that, of course, in my real Czech ride, that was the airport I landed on. But it also happens to be the airport that the aviation class I teach at my local high school, it's the one we're always using. And it's just sort of an ironic twist of fate that it happened to be the airport that's that important in that regard as well. That's kind of fun. All right, getting a little bit of turbulence. Nothing unusual. This time of year, by the way, it doesn't look this nice outside. It's actually, we're starting to get the leaves, and the leaves are absolutely gorgeous. But I love, like, again, following the little power line makes it so easy to not get lost here. And again, those lakes are much bigger than roads. Like, people are like, oh, I'm going to see a road. No, you're not going to see a road. Don't even bother wasting your time, kind of a thing like that. Ah, there's our waypoint. Now, in the real world, of course, visibility would probably end about here. You'd be lucky. But our next waypoint here is going to be Wyndham Airport, and it's going to be off our left wing. It's supposed to be about 2.5 minutes from now. So we're doing okay so far. Wyndham, the town itself, we have Eastern Connecticut University here, in case you get really lost. And, of course, north of Wyndham Airport, you have University of Connecticut, which is right up there. Also off our left wing, not that we can see it. Again, I can play tour guide because I fly this area all the freaking time. We also have Coventry Lake, which is just north of us, and you can get a good look at that, too. And there are certain high schools that certain people work at over in that town, but that's a different issue. No idea. So as we're cruising along, we're just going to double check to make sure everything looks okay. We're burning some fuel. EGT's good. Temp. Amp. Good. And one thing we want to do, and I teach anybody who's ever flown with me, is to basically play the traffic game and just to keep an eye out for traffic. Speaking of which, FAR 91 111, sir. Did you know that you were supposed to coordinate with me in advance before you attempt to fly in formation with me? And we have Advanced Bush Flyers. Welcome back. I could guess who this is. This could be Lafarog. I'm not sure. And we have a couple other folks, in which case, welcome. All right, we're cruising along. Everything's going nice. It's great to be in the 172. What I hate about Flight Sim, by the way, is if you come down here, it says I have 13.1 hours in this plane. I lost 500 hours out of Flight Sim. It just deleted it one day. When they had some big patch and I did the beta version, it just inhaled it. Like, this plane is the one I always use. How's it going, Lafarog? I had a feeling. All right, coming up on Wyndham now. Again, everything's going perfectly fine. Nothing wrong. Just enjoying our little flight here. Taking a look at the old tablet every once in a while. Of course, I'm cheating a little bit. Normally, we'd just be using map. And we're drifting north just a tiny bit here, which doesn't surprise me because my initial heading was slightly off, but that's okay. One of the interesting things on my check ride is the flight inspector there, the DPE, expected me to know how to use the autopilot. And it was kind of one of those, like, I thought you're here to see how I could fly. And his point there, of course, was very, very important, which is you need to know how everything on the airplane works. There should be nothing on the plane you're not sure about. Yeah, we're definitely getting a little north. You can tell. So there's this little, like, twisty lakey thing here. We're supposed to be down here. You can see we're basically pointing right at it. So I'm a little off course, but welcome to Dead Reckoning. It kind of sucks. There we go. Looking good. Uh-oh. Sounds like we're having some sort of problem here. I think, oh no. Looks to me like we have a fire coming out of the back of the plane. We should do something immediately. So now, of course, this plane has a fire in the back of it. Our technique, of course, is to get just enough speed so that we do not dip into the yellow here. So we're going to pretend the back of the plane's on fire. Now, in my early days, when I did maneuvers like this, one of the things I got wrong was the fact that I tried to slip the plane. And slipping the plane is considered a maneuver. And since we're actually above our maneuvering speed, it's considered bad form for us to be doing any sudden movements on the controls. But basically, we'd sit here at this, and tool, of course, the fire inside of our baggage compartment would go out. So we just hold it, and that's it. It's real tempting to go faster, but the turbulence could potentially bend the plane. So I'm going to go ahead and execute a nice gentle turn. Of course, as, we're still on fire here. Not sure if the fire is getting any better. And I'm going to start looking ahead of me while trying to keep that speed up and hoping that a fire puts itself out here. And we're going to put ourselves a nice hard ceiling on 1,300 feet. And we're going to assume that the baggage fire went out. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and level the plane off nice and gently. And we're going to divert up to Wyndham here. There we go. Looks pretty good. Now, Wyndham Airport, like I said, it's a pretty nice little airport. And of course, when you divert, you can do anything you need to do to safely get you back down onto the ground, kind of a thing like that. So that means utilizing a global positioning system. That means doing anything. So, of course, I'm not going to waste any time. It's too dangerous. What we could do, clear, direct. We're going to move our mouse. Why won't it let me go down to nearest? This is much easier in the other plane because you just go down to the nearest button and push it in there. You suck. Someday. This is real fun to do while you're flying, by the way. Oh, it didn't recognize the Delta? Come on, man. And there we go. Wind was right off our nose. So let's go ahead and get some frequencies here so we can continue our flight. Frequency, this is a standard airport. Let's go get what we need to get. ASOS is 133675, so we'll go ahead and put that over on the other side, and we'll hear what the weather has to do today. And we'll get ready to come down on the ground. 13367. Go ahead and switch that over to the other channel there. We're going to go pop on COM 2.
Kilo India Juliet Delta, automated weather observation 1400 Zulu. Wind 255 at 10.
Nice.
Visibility 9er. Sky condition. Kilo India Juliet.
I guess we don't have sky condition. So India Delta is right there off our left. We know, of course, the wind is coming out of mostly the west. Not quite the west. I actually did mix the wind up a little bit today. The traffic pattern altitude here is 1,300 feet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and execute a couple landings here and make it nice and easy. Our first landing today will, of course, be a short field landing, which is always a great test to see if you got what it takes, so to speak. Now, one of the interesting things about short field landings is when you do it on a check ride, of course, you have to pick the target. And that's just one of those things that I find kind of interesting. Not in a bad way necessarily, just more of a, kind of a situation. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and spin this sucker around so this is aiming at the better direction. Give it just a little bit of power, about 1,300 feet. Look out the window, there's runway 27. We're going to go ahead and pop in a couple clicks of flaps right away and get us coming down here. So my target today is going to be the third white line at the end of the runway there. Start our descent. Approach speed on this plane is about 60 knots. For me, when I flew the 172N, I know it was even older than that, it was an M. Of course, though, it was miles per hour. So we did 70 miles an hour, which kept it nice and easy. Now, this is one of those things that our good friends over in Flight Sim Land don't do well, and that's how responsive the throttle is. In the real world, these planes are very responsive on the throttle. There's no delay. It does not feel anything like I'm flying a turboprop. You know, when I jam full power, it's instant. You know, there's no hesitation. That's one of the things that make the lovely piston planes so handy. All right, there's the end of the runway. Actually, we need to come a little bit. We're drifting a little bit because of the wind here. And let's go ahead and pull final. And we're going to do this as a short field. So our objective is to get on the ground at the third bump. Not before the third bump. The third white line would be pretty bad for us. There's the flight simism, by the way, right there. Always taking this turn a little too late, but that's okay. One thing we don't want to do, of course, is get slow, which ironically, this plane, you know it's slow because the controls get very stupid on you. There we go. That looks good to me. Actually, altitude's pretty good. We're basically perfect. Of course, we want to go through our before landing checklist. We'll do a gumfuls, gas undercarriage, mixture, propeller flaps, light speed. We'll go ahead and re-enrich the mixture there. We're going to double check this. Our flaps are in the correct position. We're going to make sure everything looks good. Cut the power a little bit. A little high here, not too bad. There's no trees there in the real world, by the way. I didn't hit the landing light. I'm bad, sorry. All right, there's our third line. Let's go ahead and bring this thing down. There it is. Now, if we were doing a normal short takeoff, of course, what we want to do is we'd slap the flaps up just like that, and we'd stand on the brakes. So we're not going to stand on the brakes here today. We're just going to do kind of a standard little piece here. Give it a couple squeezes of the old brakes, and we're just going to come off. Apparently, brakes are expensive. They really, really, really are expensive. Also, you tend to lock up the tires if you're not careful, so you always want to keep that in mind. All right, so we're on the ground, and we're going to do after takeoff checklist. When you do this, of course, try to stop the plane before you go after the after takeoff. All right, let's see here. Short field landing, bulk landing, after landing. Here we go. So we're going to confirm the wing flaps are in the up position. The wing flaps are in the up position. Sweet. So we're going to head down here. We're going to go right to before takeoff. I pounced on the ground. That was a pounce. Of course, what did I not do? Talk on the radio at all. That was very sloppy. Of course, I don't normally live stream on flying my airplane. I'm just saying. Diamond 62. Great choice, Gaming Parker. Great choice. Easy, easy, easy. Little short, little short. Again, I don't know what his target was. This is one of those things I lost points on when I did my flight exam. Make sure you go through the takeoff checklist every time you intend to take off, not just the first time. I don't know if you heard that, but the tablet just told me I was approaching 27. All right, we're waiting for a back tax to finish it up. We're going to go ahead and get our landing lights all set to go before takeoff. Wing flaps set, throttle set, mixture is full rich, check. We're going to confirm that the trim is set correctly. Trim is set for takeoff. Looks good to me. We're going to make sure the elevator control is good. Wing flaps are good. We are good. All right, back tax. It's all you. Ooh, you got to cut that throttle a little sooner. Nice. Right on, right on. I love how my tablet just yelled at me and said, approaching runway 27. We're going to do a short field takeoff this time. How's it going to fly now? So a short field in this plane is interesting because in the old 172, you weren't actually supposed to you could use flaps. It wasn't actually recommended because if you did use flaps, it basically caused the aircraft to get off the ground sooner, but your climb rate suffered really badly. So if you did, it just got you in the air sooner, but not necessarily into safety sooner. Man, this plane does not turn like the real one does. All right, short field takeoff. We're going to confirm trim's good. Control's feeling pretty good here. Our landing light is flipped on. We're going to apply full power. We're going to do one click of flaps because we're a new 172. When the plane crouches, you let go. And we're just going to gently lift the nose wheel just a little bit. Feels like it's going to take a lifetime to get in the air. See how that wing's coming up just a little bit? That's as much as this plane needs. And we're up. All right. One of the things I liked about the old 172 that I don't like about the 172 is you could actually press and hold on the flap lever, and it would cause it to come up as long as you held it. So when you're climbing like this, we go ahead and put the nose down. When you bring those flaps up in this plane, the whole plane goes, oh, like that, and it scares your passengers to death. So our next landing, of course, we're going to go do a soft field now that we've got ourselves the short field out of the way, and we've also done a short field takeoff. Also notice, by the way, I did not climb at VX, which would be sloppy, but again, is the short field or is it an obstacle issue? So we can think about that. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of pattern work while we're here today. I'm going to go ahead and take myself a nice gentle left turn. Again, keeping about 75 knots in. After takeoff, we're going to go ahead and kill the landing light here. We can technically leave it on because we're so close, but that's perfectly fine. There we go. Nice gentle left turn, especially from this region. Man, that's a busy pattern. Could you imagine all these people in Wyndham at the same time? That's craziness. There we go. And we're just going to keep that turn in, and we're going to come right back into the next one. We will do a soft field landing here. So a soft field landing is incredibly fast. Yes, it is a talent and a curse. Nice. So soft field landing is actually a ton of fun because basically what we're going to do here is we're going to try to keep the plane in the air as long as possible at the same time as respect the fact that we only have so much ground underneath us to go. Now, when we do soft fields, of course, if we wanted to really, really do it to it, what we could do is we could actually land in the grass here. I'd rather not because we're going to cross a taxiway to do so, and I don't really like that very much. All right, bring that nose down. We only need 1,300 feet and about 100 knots. Looks pretty good to me. Runway 27's looking solid. Let's go ahead and pull that throttle back. We're going to pop that first notch throttle in. We're going to start making our way down to our descent speed. Now, the 172, of course, if you go ahead and kill that first flap, all it's going to really do for you is it's going to make the nose lift up and wreck your trim. And, of course, if you're on an Archer, when you bring up that first notch of flaps 15, I remember, it's fun. It's fun. So there's the 3/4 point. We're going to go bring down flaps number 2. And we're just going to enjoy a nice gentle. You can only have 3 mods. Could you be slightly specific as to what you mean by a mod? I'm fine with answering that question. But do you mean like airplane add-ons? Do you mean like things that change the way the game plays? I'm not sure what you mean by mod. One thing we want to be doing here is be about 5 over approach speed. So we're doing 64. So we're basically textbook right now. If I could fly this well in the real world, oh man, I can't do this as well. It's just so hard to do in the real world. All right, pull final. Red 6-4, short final, 2-7, Wyndham. And we are high. Not bad, not bad. All right, so soft field. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to keep the nose off the ground. And the trick to this, of course, is when you do go to set up your last little piece there, just basically fly in formation. That's the trick. Let's go and get ourselves a gas undercarriage comfles. Should propel the flaps light speed. All right, we're good to go. Yeah, we're a little high. Not bad, not bad. Oh, boy. Oh, man. Did you guys tear up the air before I got here? Fun fact. Wing vortexes are a real thing here. All right. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. We can actually chop and drop. We have plenty of speed here. Chop and drop. So what we're going to do here is to get a nice soft field landing, we're going to apply a little bit of throttle. And all we're going to do is we're going to hold the plane off the ground. And we're going to hold the nose off the ground. And then we're going to gently back the throttle up. All we're trying to do is do a power wheelie. And you can see how I'm holding that wheel off. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Nice. Still got it. Still got it. All right, after landing, we're going to make sure our flaps are in the up position. We're going to make sure our landing light is set correctly. That was nice. That was nice. Nice. Good job, everybody. Good job. A nice little soft field landing. All right, so what we're going to do now is we'll save our normal landing until we get back to Hartford. We're actually going to head up north and do some maneuvers now. And we'll see what everybody's still got in them, kind of a thing. Nice landings, everybody. Try to keep that nose off the ground. Of course, when you land the first time on a soft grass field, you think you broke the plane. Like, no joke, broke the plane. All right, let's get ready for takeoff here. Takeoff checklist. Trim is set correctly. Controls are set correctly. We're going to go hit our landing light, get that all nice and ready to go. Mixture is set to the rich position. Flaps are good. We are all set. Oh, Dev Taken's going around, it looks like. Gaming Parker's coming in now. Ooh, careful. Careful, careful. A little better, a little better. It's going for the white bark there. Oh, his wheels fell off. Of course, I'm not paying attention where I'm going. That's super duper dangerous. Alrighty then. Fun thing in Wyndham in the real world, of course, is they're constantly running glider traffic in and out of here. So we have to watch out for those guys. They're pretty terrifying. All right, Dev Taken is out of the way. Checking the approach, checking the traffic pattern. Nope, looks good. All right, let's do it. Flip. Flight. All right, so we're going to be taking off, getting up to 600 feet. We're going to take a right turn, and we're going to head up north to do some maneuvers. We want to get a... Do you hear the thing telling me I have 4,200 feet of runway remaining there? All right, zing around. Everything's good. Controls are good. Nice and loose still. All right, let's go. We'll do a soft field takeoff this time. So we're going to pull all the way back in the elevator. And we're just going to hold a wheelie. Just hold a wheelie. Hold the wheelie. Hold the wheelie. Just wait for the plane. Hold the wheelie. Hold the wheelie. There we go. Airborne. You got to stay in ground effect, by the way, when you do one of these, because otherwise the plane gets really, really silly on you. All right, looks good. 60 knots. Let's go. Nice. I love how the plane just goes, oh. It's such a 172. Great to see there's some traffic over Hartford today. It makes me feel good. Thank you, CC Ryder. I appreciate it. That's awesome. Thank you so much. So apparently, that's awesome. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. All right, so let's go ahead now and make our way up north now. I said 600 feet, didn't I? So one of the fun things you don't see in the real world, or in the simulator that you don't see in the real world, is those trees are so much closer, even though I'm 500 feet above them than otherwise. Alrighty, looks pretty good. We're basically going to pull ourselves to the north. This is actually pretty dangerous because there's so much traffic now. If we were to do this, we'd really, really want to wait until we get some more altitude, then turn. Less likely to run into shenanigans and goings-ons. It's kind of one of those things. All right, UConn is going to be right up here on the left. It's got basically a massive University of Connecticut. It's the biggest uni we've got on all Connecticut, kind of a thing like that. Great place. I'm actually looking to get certified over there, which is actually cool. Might be able to teach uni someday. Well, I do teach. I don't teach uni. I teach higher ed, I guess I call it. There we go. Give it a couple taps of the old trim. One of the things they teach you in instrument flying is attitude, not altitude. Hold it at the right attitude. Let the altitude figure itself out. So if 7.5 degrees is the magical angle, just put it at 7.5 degrees and leave it there. More than enough. Now, one of the fun things is I came up here during flight training one time, and we were doing turns around a point, which is what we're going to do, and you'll even do the same turn around a point I had to do. But we do turns around a point, and of course, the Yukon marching band was literally in the field right below us when we did this. So you can imagine all these Yukon people going, "Why is that airplane circling us? Is that for us?" You know. Meanwhile, it's a 172 just kind of doing its thing, going, "Okay." One thing, of course, is super fun with this particular maneuver. It's an inside-out maneuver. It's an inside-out maneuver. You know, it's one of those kind of things. And what they mean by inside-out is you can't focus all your attention outside. You can't focus all your attention inside. Apply now asks, what do you teach? At the higher ed level, I teach teachers how to be teachers. And at the secondary level, I teach technology education, predominantly computer science, robotics, aviation, video production, stuff like that. That's my thing. All right, so let's get a little bit of altitude. We're going to do some nastiness in a second. So if you look really, really carefully, there's the pole. So that's got to be our target in just a little bit. No, I love it. Love it. Like I said, the one thing I enjoy about flight simulation, as I've said before, is you find what you enjoy. You know, if the kind of stuff you like to enjoy is kind of prototypical, like we're doing right now, just do prototypical stuff. You know, if you're the kind of person who wants to get a barnstormer and barnstorm, just barnstorm. If you're one of those airliner jocks, love it. Absolutely love it. Airliners are so wild, kind of a thing like that. So always give yourself that chance. All right, we're going to get a little bit of altitude, and we're going to do some slow flight and all that other good stuff. So one fun thing is, since I have 4 flight running right now, I can see the path that we've taken so far, and it's very fun to look at how not rectangle my rectangular patterns around Wyndham was. It's actually pretty embarrassing. That's what I get for not looking out the window like I'm supposed to. So this is Yukon. We've got a great bunch of restaurants right down here. They have Insomnia Cookies, for those of you who like cookies. They also have like a little like burger place, and I think it's there's like a milkshake shack and everything. There's the big auditorium down there and the inflatable structure. Not that I'm playing tour guide, but we'll be back in a minute. All right, we're over 3,000. We're going to go up to 3,500, and then we're going to experiment a little bit with the unusual things that we're supposed to not do, but we learn how to do them just to get more comfortable with them, kind of things. Yes, we did get over 3,000, so we want to do that. All right, so we're going to do slow flight next. Slow flight is probably one of my more relaxing things. Some people find it to be like this awful experience and they might have nothing to do with it. I think it's fun. It requires like concentration and a little bit of luck when it comes to wind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring myself to about 35. I'm going to put my flaps all the way down, and we're just going to slow the plane down. Now, for those of you who fly the old 172s, one of the things that's so fascinating is when you get this slow, the airspeed indicator will no longer indicate airspeed, but you're still flying stably. Now, I love this. Look at this. I'm at almost 2,000 RPM right now, and I'm still not stalled. Come on, volley nerd. You can slow down more than that. Give me what you got. Until you hear the stall siren, you're not stalled enough. Oh, come on. Seriously? There it is. There it is. Now we're slow flying. Incompetent on my part. Usually this is something I can hold a little more steady, but this plane has a really bad throttle compared to the real one. See how it drifts a little bit? So what they do with you in slow flight is they do some really mean things to you. They say, turn the plane around. So you're like, okay, whatever you say. And you tilt the plane about that far, and the controls feel terrible. Like you grab them and you could turn the wheel all the way over and it just starts banking on you. It's just like hopeless. The real plane, by the way, the stall siren would be going this entire time. Awesome, CC Rider. I'd love to hear that. Oh boy. Oh boy. For the record, I've got some silly videos next week. I'm not very proud of them, but they're very entertaining for those of you who like the entertaining side of flying. Oh my gosh. So the one thing you learn too is how to coordinate with your rudder here and in the real world. Look at how little bank angle it takes me to do a donut here. I love this. This is so much fun. I'm listen a little bit of altitude. And this is when they teach you big changes are required in order to capture it. See, I'm getting slow? That's all it takes to get you back on track here. But you got to be careful because the P factor and the torque in the real plane are real. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Good thing I brought my nice sunglasses. I have flying-only sunglasses, and like they stay in my flight bag. I don't use them for anything else because they're kind of special and expensive. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Getting slow. Getting slow. I love this. So my airspeed indicator right now says 40. I could probably get a little slower. I don't hear the meep the entire flight here. Almost there. Look at how easy it is to tip this thing. Like, this is awesome. Yeah, the 152 is a little wonky in the real world. Like, it's like a toy. I don't hate it. It's actually kind of fun to fly because it's so sensitive. But, man, it's a toy. Oh, boy. Also, landing a 150 or 152 is more work than it should be. Okay, there we go. Oh, wasn't that fun? Don't forget to back the throttle out a little tiny bit after you get back north. Wasn't that great? So then what they would do is they'd tell you, climb to 5,000. They'd be like, you suck. All right, so after they do all that, of course, is they're like, all right, why don't you go ahead and do an approach stall? And it's like, okay. Whoa, it does not do that. That is not what a 172 does. Not if you give it right rudder. Here's the important part, though. You got to wait until you get positive rate, then you bring the flaps up and do it. That was actually pretty bad. I got to do that again. That was bad. That was bad. So look at this. Perfectly coordinated. If you're perfectly coordinated in a balanced 172, we should stall straight down. It shouldn't do that. It doesn't do that. Oh, my God. I'm sorry. That's annoying me. That's wrong. That is incorrect. As a matter of fact, let's take it too far and just demonstrate how not incorrect that is. All right, hang on. That's not what the 172 does. Right foot. What? What? Nope. 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 All right, anyway, so after we would do that normally, no, that's not correct. Again, maybe there's I have a weird center of gravity thing that I don't know about, but that's just not what it does. Not if you're doing your job as a pilot, right? But anyway, I'm done complaining. So the next one, of course, is we do a departure stall, which is basically we pulled up too fast and we're going to sink the plane. Now, a departure stall is totally fun and it's also terrifying. It's also the first time I ever spun a plane unintentionally. Make sure we have our altitude before we do this one. So a lot of times what they'll do professionally is they'll do it at reduced RPM. They'll say do 2,200 RPM and just bring us to the first sign of a stall. So that would be the first sign. We just bring the nose down full power. Now, if we wanted to take it all the way, all we have to do is pull the nose up, leave the power in, and get our right foot about a mile forward. No! That's not what it does. It does do that, though, and it does do that. Now, if we wanted to be thorough, of course, we could put it in a spin. We're not working on a commercial rating today, but for those of you who are looking to spin the plane, it's actually pretty easy to do. Just bring the nose up, tip it a little. So you're going to go right aileron, left foot. That should, no. Oh, well, I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so that's our slow flight. The best they got anyway. Let's head back to Yukon now, and we've gone a little far afield here, kind of a thing like that. Exactly. You know, I never harmed an onion, but why did they make me cry? And for those of you who are looking for something very amusing to watch later, our good friend Ralph the dog does a whole song dedicated to onions. You know, I once saw a salad dressing. I even made a melon ball. You know, kind of a thing like that. It's very, very amusing. But anyway, we've got some other work to do. So we're going to go head over here and do some turns around a point. Now, turns around a point are relatively straightforward. They're one of those point maneuvers. It's really an exercise in knowing the wind. The wind here, of course, is 245 from me, so the wind is coming basically out of this direction from my right, which is okay. That just means when I go to turn, obviously when I'm in the wind, I have to turn sooner. When I'm away from the wind, you kind of go to the, I'm sorry, when you're on the up, I know what it looks like intuitively. I'm not going to try to memorize it here. The short version, though, is when the wind is pushing you, you have to work harder. All right, let's make our way down. Of course, in the real 172, we wouldn't do a descent like this, so we'd have to pull carburetor heat. Of course, they say real 172, referring to the 172s that I would typically fly. All right, let's see what we have here today. So there's our tower. We're supposed to be doing this between 800 feet and 1,500 feet. No problem for us, kind of a thing like that. We'll keep sneaking down. Let's see, 1,055 feet is the local, so 1,800 feet is what it's going to be for us. I just got a warning from the tablet yelling at me, saying a train is ahead. They're right. They're right. There's train all around us, but that's okay. So Pokey Turtle is trying to summon a reference from the movie Mafia. I see what you did there, Pokey Turtle. All right, let's do it to it. I might even go a little bit lower. This is kind of high for that maneuver. There it is. That's about 1,800 feet right there. Just a tiny bit lower. All right, cool. Give it a little bit of power. You're supposed to be doing it, it's kind of like at or below kind of maneuvering speed, especially if you're going to have to work it kind of hard here. One of the tricks I learned, of course, doing this one enough times during flight training is get your trim perfect before you start taking the donuts. And one of the other things they teach you about taking the turns around a point as well is don't start doing turns around a point officially until you've gotten a couple practice rotations and say, oh, now you can count it, kind of a thing. All right, that's about 1,700 feet right there. Let's do it. This is a very leisurely maneuver. Stick my head. See, in the real world, I'm not that tall. So I can just do one of these. It's exactly where it is. Yeah, I need to bring in a little bit more turn. The wind now is kind of to my right. There we go. Nice. So this is the worst part. Now the wind is directly behind you, so it starts pushing you kind of hard. So what you have to do is, before you get kind of pushed out to sea, is you have to kind of do one of these things to kind of catch back up to it and be able to get back at it. Otherwise, you end up, instead of a beautiful circle, you end up in a situation where it's almost like kind of like a peanut. There we go. Again, I'm just going to let that tower kind of slip forward a little bit. There we go. And again, now we're going to be having the wind pushing us, so we actually have to pull ourselves in a little bit, even though it seems like we don't need to do that, just because, like I said, the wind is now off my left side. Yeah, we got to pull that wind in a little bit more aggressively here. Again, if you got your trim set up, this is a vacation. There we go. So now we're going to be cut back across the wind again. I'm starting to get a little ahead of myself, but that's okay. There we go. All fixed. This is one of those where it's so much easier to do in the real plane than it is to do in the flight sim. I find this very difficult to do in the flight sim. And in case you're wondering how do I know what altitude I'm at right now, I'm cheating a little bit. That's okay though. Otherwise, I'd have to have like 6 shortcut keys to do this. According to my tablet, I'm just run into my turbulence I hit on the other side. Ha 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 ha. All right, we'll go down one more time for victory. That was basically a perfect circle. Ha ha ha. Still got it. Of course, like I said, the band, see the little grass right on the left? You got to imagine the entire marching band sitting out there going bump, 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 kind of a thing like that. Sorry. I didn't bring my instrument. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Is that a tennis court? I thought there was a swimming pool for a second. I think the swimming pool here is indoors. Used to have a buddy who lived here, and he would always buy us dinner because he never ate dinner ever at the food hall, kind of a thing like that. I think the turbulence isn't bad. Usually at altitudes like this is actually pretty painful. All right, the wind is pushing us, so we got to actually lead a little bit here. There we go. Try not to lose too much altitude. Remember, if you increase bank angle, you're going to increase altitude. Speed is usually not the problem with it. At least for me, speed was never an issue, unless you really get us into a dive. It's very amusing to look at on the foreflight. It's like a perfect circle. Oh, now we're getting an airplane reference. Not bad. Not bad at all. Still got it. Still got it. A lot easier to do in VR. Or in the real plane. All right, awesome. Now we're going to go ahead and execute a couple little maneuvers. We're going to do some instrument work now. Again, just keeping proficient here. Looks pretty good to me. That looks pretty good. Awesome. Let's go ahead and add some power and get a little bit of altitude and then bring in some nastiness. Go ahead and get us to about 7.5 degrees. Trim on. There we go. Let's change the weather. Yes, my preset is called regular weather. There we go. There we go. Let's do a little bit of practicing exercises here. I'm going to go ahead and get my light back on here. Did I ever shut my landing light off? No. So I set the angle at 7.5 degrees. By the time Flight Sim was done with it, it was at 18. Nice! And that's why we look at it. All right, let's do some instrument maneuvers to get us all warmed back up again. So one of the things they do for you with our private, and after doing some work with instruments, this is like a vacation. They'll do things like, oh, go ahead and hold the plane level at this altitude or something like that. And then they would give you a specific heading to fly to. Where it gets really, really challenging is when they try to combine the headings along with whatever the altitude changes are. So they'll say, climb to 2,000 feet, head 240. So you're like, all right, 240 and 2,000. So this is a great exercise in getting the plane set up and then just paying attention. Don't let your eye get stuck on one instrument. Don't get stuck on one instrument. There's 240. And we said 2,000 feet. Like I said, the key to instrument flying is just do one thing at a time. Actually in instrument mode here. I got to slow myself down. All right, there's 3,000 feet, 240. So then they call you up again, and they'd say, why don't you go ahead and bring your heading to 270 down to 1,500 feet. So you're like, okay. So you reduce your power, and you just start the turn. G430 version of the 172. I'm not familiar with a flight sim version that is a G430. Definitely something I'm physically familiar with, not something that is so much in the flight sim. So now we're going west, we're doing 500 feet per minute. We're making our way down to 2,500. So Dexter, this is an excellent question. This actually came with the deluxe edition of Microsoft Flight Sim. So if you buy the deluxe edition, you get this version of the 172 versus the G1000 version of the 172. They're both fantastic. Most of my videos, actually, I have more time in YouTube videos than I have in anything else that I have out there. This is just something I have a ton in. All right, 100 to go. Heading west. And there's 1,500. All we do is we put the power back in. And that's it. Don't touch trim. Love it. Look at that. Oh, man, I've done this one a few times. So then, of course, what we want to do, too, is we want to practice unusual attitudes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the plane all nice and trimmed up. Dude. No, my guy. No. That is not what happens. It's okay. It's this particular version of the airplane, apparently. Boop, boop. Let's go ahead and hold Alt. That looks good. I'm just going to give it a few seconds to stabilize here because it's struggling. And again, just take a couple things like that. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use unusual attitudes. Unusual attitudes are really fun to do. That's actually one of the few maneuvers I like to do because it's not for the uninitiated. It'll definitely give you a tummy. I remember one of my good friends was telling me that he had his girlfriend riding in the back seat when he was doing this exercise. So you can imagine she probably didn't enjoy it very much. So we're going to do that. So to simulate that, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the floor. We're going to shut the plane off, or not shut the plane off. We're going to take the plane and do a bunch of random little turns. So I'm going to go take my autopilot off, and oh my gosh, oh boy. And we're just going to play around with the plane a little bit here. We're just going to play around with the plane a little bit here. We're just going to play around with the plane a little bit here. And, kind of do our thing. You can see this. And then we're going to look and try to figure out what we need to do to fix the plane. All right, let's go. Okay. Fixed. So in that case, we're pointing towards the ground. We're nice and leveled off. We reduce power. Nice. All right, let's give that one another shot. Bring us back to normal power. And we're going to go ahead and make our pilot super duper dizzy here. Kind of whip him around a little bit. Oh yeah, this is if this doesn't give you the world's best vertigo, it will certainly give you the world's worst. All right, so look up. Oh, we're looking up. We're going to level off full power. And then we're going to gently come down. Gently come down. Nice. Unusual attitudes complete. So if we were just doing private pilot stuff, that's as much instrument flying as we'd have to do that day. So it's a good thing the weather got better all of a sudden. I was a little nervous that I'd have to fly this whole flight with sort of... No, it's not. Oh, whatever. So, of course, at this point, you'd be sitting there, still sweating, and after everything you've been doing. Yeah, it is. But it's a great exercise, a great exercise. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to fly back to Hartford, and we're going to go execute our final landing, and then we're going to kind of wrap everything up. All right, let's see here. So we're going to go direct Hartford, direct KIHFD, which is a lovely little place here. Of course, this is never recommended. You want to probably be paying attention to what you're doing. Of course, in this plane, I can't look out the window and do things at the same time. It's really frustrating how that works. There we go. Cool. Let's head on over. 2,500 feet. That sounds like pretty good. We'll give us a little more power here because we can probably do 2,550 and we'll head back. So, of course, Hartford is a Delta airspace in the real world. And the question here is, when do you give them a call? Kind of a thing like that. And so you can actually give them a call pretty much. What we did not do is track a Hartford VOR. We should have done that when we were in instrument mode. But we're going to have to track it anyway. So I'm not really worried about that. We'll get some practice with that, too. Alrighty, then. So Hartford VOR, not Hartford VOR, Hartford, Connecticut. So we have a little Delta airspace kind of a thing, and we got to get their permission to pass through it before we go chewing through. Usually I call them at about 15 miles, and you kind of ask them nicely for things. But in the meantime, of course, you're desperately trying to get Hartford ATIS on the phone, and it's one of those situations where, like, no matter how hard you try, it's like trying to get them get the radio to actually pick it up. I have better headphones than I used to, so it's a lot simpler. I'm being yelled at by my tablet now, reminding. Remember how I mentioned there's a TFR? Let's go ahead and activate altitude hold there. Altitude hold looks good to me. We'll do nav hold too. Why not? All right, let's go ahead and get everything we need. 12645 is going to be our freak. 12645, delightful.
Brainerd Airport information, India 1400 Zulu. Wind 255 at 10. Visibility 9er. Sky condition. Few clouds at 9,900 feet ceiling, 13,800 feet broken. Temperature 15. Dew point 1 tree. Altimeter 29.902. Visual runway 20 in use. Landing and departing runway 20. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft red back hold short instruction.
Red?
Advise controller on initial contact. You have India.
Oh, we still have India. So then what I would do is I go over a 119.6. So we flip over to 119.6 and we give them a call. So normally this would be Cessna Red 64 is 15 to the east with information India requesting full stop. But of course this will be different for us because in this one you have to actually pick the airport and everything like that. So we'll go ahead and ask.
Brainerd Tower Red 64 is 10 miles east, 2,500 feet with Juliet to land.
Red 64.
Left base for 20. Yeah, that's actually so common it's not even funny.
2 wind 255 at 10. Make left base runway 20.
Left base for 20 Red 64.
Enter left base runway 20 Red 64.
Delightful. So this part of the flight always scares me. So what you don't see in the real world, of course, a lot of times we would just run over the window and goof off. I do that every once in a while just to kind of keep flexible, so to speak. But you'd be coming back from Maryland, or you'd be coming back from Maine or something, or Michigan. And you'd be a little tired. And it's not like game over, I think I'm going to crash the plane tired. It's just like they get this weird nervousness that comes with going, man, I've still got to like do the hard part of the flight because you've just been kind of relaxing the whole time. And that's a very real sensation. So it's just kind of one of those things. So Hartford, of course, you always get the twist of the river, and usually the sun reflects right here, and that's kind of how you can identify it. But remember, we're not landing here. We're actually landing here. So in the real world, of course, what we do is if you do have a tablet like I have here, is we square ourselves off pretty hardcore. We actually want to make our kind of almost do a right angle to our current approach. Oh my God, it is not this hard to adjust this in the real world. Oh my gosh. All right, let's go set that real quick. Boop. And I'm going to go ahead and take the wheel. Because let's be honest, half the time the autopilot doesn't work anyway, so the reason we're doing this here is we're trying to square off runway 20. So if you take a look at my little handy-dandy heading indicator there, you'll see I'm actually on an oblique here. I need 20 being on my left, and right now 21 is on my left. So that's a good sign that we're doing okay, but we definitely, getting bounced around here. We definitely will need to adjust that when we get a little bit closer. Right off my 12 o'clock, of course, is where Advanced Bush Flyers is. I believe he landed at the football stadium. Yes, that's Rensselaer Field, Chief. It's not an airport anymore. So double check that when you come in for your approach.
Red 64, wind 255 at 10. Clear to land runway 20.
Clear 20, Red 64.
Clear to land runway 20 Red 64.
You can see me making my little adjustments there. There we go. That's correct now. All right. So this is one of the things I got wrong on my flight exam years ago. And that was make sure when you're coming into land that you descend at the proper time. Descending now is not correct. It's one of those things where like, what? Remember, a minute ago, we were descending at 1,800 feet per minute. I don't know why we have to descend so soon. So it's kind of one of those things. So we're going to be landing at that lovely airport right there. This is Hartford, Connecticut. Oh, boy, I was just there today. And good thing they didn't have the Hartford Marathon going on. That was a little bit... I'm getting yelled at by Preflight right now that told me I just flew into the TFR, which is correct because there's Rensselaer Field. We can get a good look at the Yukon Huskies losing. So, kind of one of those sort of things. Alrighty. There's Route 84, and you can actually see the big old, what do we call this, Pratt & Whitney is located right down there. I'm going to start pulling the power out a little bit. On a 172, a descent is easy. You just push the nose down. Don't touch the power. It's just kind of one of those things. In my early days of 172ing, I would always reduce power on a descent. I have since then learned, thanks to flying things like Moonies and stuff like that, we just don't do that. All right, we're doing about $1.30. That's under the yellow. So this is about the limit of how fast we can aggressively descend here. At the window here, just so you can see we're going to come in pretty darn hot. One thing a 172 does have lots of is drag. So I'm not that concerned, but I do want to lose a little more altitude here. So I'm going to back the throttle a little bit. Just bring the nose down. Your passengers hate this, by the way. Every time I take people a flight for the first time, if you do a descent like this, it's a safe descent because if I lost my engine, I could still land on the runway. But for passengers, they hate this. They just cannot tolerate this. So keep that in mind, the difference between what you do when you fly versus what you do with other people when you fly. So kind of keep that in mind as well. Look at how much fuel we burned, by the way. 1/4 of a tank. Isn't that incredible? That's a lot of gas. Like, that's a lot. That's almost $110 worth of gas right there. So that's a lot. That's a lot. I can actually push the nose down a little bit. We've already been cleared to land. One of the things I will actually do is I will call them back and say, not was I cleared to land, request full stop, and they'll clear me to land again, just for me to mentally make sure I'm not doing something incredibly stupid. Because that could be so bad. All right, before landing checklist. Pop. Landing lights on. All right, so in Hartford, we have noise abatement. So noise abatement's pretty easy. Just don't fly over houses. That's how you do it. So you can actually see what you do is you sort of hang out here a little bit later than you need to, and then you cut across and jump across the river kind of a thing. Like, see how right now I'm trying to avoid these neighborhoods? So what you want to do is get a little bit here, and then we take the left turn. All right, I've got 2 and 2. Out of the Preflight, short final, runway 20. All right, looks like we have a crosswind from the right. Now, in the real world, of course, when you're coming into land here, you're always going to get busted by incoming traffic. There'll always be some guy in a Cirrus, some guy in an Ercoupe, or something like that that's going to be causing all sorts of trouble and shenanigans. By the way, if you want to come join us for the picture, I'll be over by the DC-3. About 60 knots, flaps down, gas undercarriage, mission propeller flaps, light speed. We are good to go. Looks good. Final, we're a little fast. Altitude, oh. It does that in the real world, too. All right, coming in, runway 20, going around. We're going to maintain this, and we're going to milk the flaps. Milk the flaps. Just wait. Let the plane accelerate. I did this in a 182 once, and I, honest to God, think the plane didn't gain 100 feet for the entire length of the runway. All right, going up.
Brainerd Tower, red 64, cancel landing intention.
Red 64, your cancellation is received.
He sounded so disappointed.
Brainerd Tower, red 64, is 1 mile south, 400 feet, with Juliet to land.
I thought I had India. How do I know that it's Juliet now?
Tower. Altimeter 29.9, 2 wind 255 at 10. Make left downwind runway 20.
Left downwind 20, report midfield, red 64.
Make left traffic runway 20, red 64.
Was it the most mellow go-around ever? It feels mellow until you have to do it in the real world. It's actually slightly terrifying. Come on. Come on. And right altitude. Love the 1,000, what is it, 1,018 feet, 1,032 feet, I think it is, field elevation here. But I always just do 1,000, it's easy. Isn't this great? Just a relaxing day in Hartford without like 600, wait, there's like 600 planes. What am I saying? Here's a future fill version of, this is the past fill to future fill here. Future fill calling, make sure you slow down before you have to get to your flap descent, or lowering speed. It makes it a lot easier. Oh, look at that. I'm already at the flap lowering speed. Ta-da! Coming down. So we're 4 flights screaming at me right now.
255 at 10. Clear to land runway 20.
20, clear to land, red 64.
Clear to land runway 20 red 64.
It's in the real world. We play this game called I Can't Turn My Head because I'm so strapped in right now, it's impossible. That looks good to me. All right, we want to be slowing down to about 65 knots. Get ready for a lot of left foot on the stern. 4 flights about to scream at me and say, short final, runway 20, Hartford. Love it. So much for noise abatement. Sorry. 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 I will be at the DC-3. Some of you might not have my graphics, so it's the second hangar from the right. All right, we're just going to take the left turn. Yeah, might as well do this properly. Yep, got it already. Honestly, the landing light stays on. They're all LEDs anyway. All right, normal landing. So that means just get in the ground. So in Hartford, we actually have a 3-degree glide slope and not a 2-degree. It's actually kind of cool. A bit of a crosswind. Nothing new. Yeah, so the turbulence is always terrible because everybody's in the traffic pattern tearing the air up. I'm not landing on the numbers. That's dangerous. Whoa! Whoa! There it is. Yes, for us, runway made. Yeah, I usually don't fly in this eye. I usually aim a little bit lower, but that's okay.
Red 64, turn next taxiway.
Next taxiway, red 64. One two 1.6. Here it comes. Here it comes.
Red 64 contact ground on 121.6.
121.6, red 64.
Going to 121.6 red 64.
Red 64
Brainerd ground
taxi
red
to General
64
Aviation.
All right, after takeoff. Flaps up. Make sure 1 inch. Landing lights off. Everything's set to go. All right, so let's go ahead over and go visit the DC-3 here. It should be right... Oh, where is it? Yep, it's right over there. Let's head to it. Notice it, like, taxi to parking. That was useless. Come on, Hartford, you're better than... Oh! Cannot believe the amount of fuel we used for this mission. Crazy, isn't it? All right, we've reached the end. So I always like to do a quick little Q&A and see if there's anybody who's interested in any questions or comments or any things they're looking to do. We recently added memberships, which was kind of fun, a little bit of back and forth there for some folks. We have our first member, which is fantastic. Thank you to Doug Longnecker for that one. I have to put together a special video or something like that. Like I said, YouTube had kind of an interesting offer, and I'm not going to not take it because it's... I'm not going to say it any other way. It's free money. All right. Go sneak over here. Hartford Jet Center. Oh, come on, Hartford Jet Center. When are you going to open your wings bar and grill? You've had that thing ready to go for like 10 years now. You can open it any time. Oh, well. Let's cut the power. And park. Cool. While everybody's getting ready here, I'm going to go do my shutdown checklist. Let's see here. Checklist. After landing, I did that wing flaps up. Securing airplane, parking brakes set, electrical equipment, and everything off. So this is what you don't hear, but when you do this, it goes and just cuts out, and it gets very quiet in the plane. Avionics master switch is going to be in the off position. Checked. Mixture is going to be idle cutoff. What we want to do is actually run the engine up. Oh, go away. I'm not done yet. Nice. We might wait there. Mixture. We're going to set the ignition to the off position, which is going to be right there like that. Master switch is off. Master switch coming off. When you pull your headphones off, by the way, after flying, after a while, your ears are like... We put the control lock, clunk, just like that inside there. Fuel selector valve. We usually put this left to right. That's a pretty good habit to get into. It's a little awkward to do that. All right, let's see what we have here. What multiplayer settings do you play with to see other aircraft? All players is going to be the way to do it, by the way, in case you're curious how that works. The other thing you could do, too, is you could do live players. I don't actually recommend that because that doesn't work well. It kind of works. Let's see here. Why do you interact? Why do you hardly interact with the YouTube comment section? Junior, that's an excellent question. The big thing with that is there are so many comments. It's crazy, but I do interact with the community page in my comments because it's much, much easier to track. I have 1,100 videos on my channel, and the comments come like a waterfall. So it's a hopeless task, and it's something that I did a long time ago. Great question, though. What is your CS syllabus? Lafflerog, you have to be slightly more specific as to what you mean by that. Are you referring to like what do I teach? In which case it's Scratch and Python, or do you mean like what do you do for class or something like that? I'm not sure what you're going for there. All right, so I'm not crashing this plane. We worked really hard to get here today, so there's no way I'm going to dent this thing. But I will do something stupid with it, so we'll have some fun with it. Gotcha. Nice. Awesome. All right, so great, yeah. So that's kind of the answer there. All right, so I'm going to come spring us around. This is one of our longer live streams, but like I said, I wanted to make it something special because we haven't done it in a little while. And let's go do something stupid. Preflight just told me I was approaching runway 20. You think? Don't worry. Don't worry. Told you. Told you. I didn't mean dangerous, right? All right. So what can you do to a 172 that you're not supposed to do with a 172? And I'll go ahead and demonstrate that in the last couple of minutes here while everybody answers any quick questions they have over there in the comments. I'm keeping an eye. I just got a warning about a hazard alert. Apparently I'm at low altitude. Oh, topics. The big one there, Lafflerog, is we concentrate. The first unit is all about computational thinking, kind of the 3 pieces of an algorithm. How do you make an algorithm? We do like a tic-tac-toe AI and stuff. Then the second unit is dedicated to basic programming in Scratch, which for those who've not played with Scratch, it's free and it's a ton of fun to play with. Then our third unit is graphics manipulation, which we do Python for. And Python it's a jump. It's a serious cognitive load when you're going, especially from Scratch. And then our fourth unit is data science. So it's pretty good. Have a great night, Simon. Have a good one. All right, so what can we do in a 172 that we're not supposed to do? And of course, that's an acrobatic maneuver. Just because you can does not mean you should. Have a great night, everybody, and hopefully you enjoyed our little show tonight. A couple weeks from now, we'll do something. We haven't done anything with... no, we did jets recently, so maybe it'll be a good time to bust out some twin-engine or turboprop action. Maybe TBM in some nasty conditions or something like that. But other than that, have a great night, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and keep an eye on the community page if you're looking for kind of those general contacts. And we'll see you next time. Enjoy.